first thing, many thanks for making the time to attend today. Again, as I said, I apologize. I know it is Friday evening and that also in August. So most people are on holiday or on holiday mode. So I really apologize for having this on a Friday evening. From September onwards, I'm going to do regular Power BI webinars and I will be basically making sure that they are not on a Friday evening. We'll try to do on a Tuesday or a Wednesday so that it is just easier for everybody. So that is the plan. So today's topic is going to be implementing an analytics culture for data-driven decision making. This is part two. Part one was done on basically 21st of July. We have shared basically the video with a lot of people. So if you still need a video of that copy of that video and the presentation, do drop me a line after this meeting, and we will happily send that across to you. On that one, we basically were much more looking at how do you assess your finance function and things like that. So if you want a copy of that, we can send that across. Who is this webinar for? This webinar is for almost anybody who is passionate about data analytics. So that it is not limited to the finance function, though it will be a bit more finance focused. It is for basically people who are transformation leaders, change leader. And again, your title doesn't need to be a change leader, but if you do look at yourself as a change driver within your business or within your environment, then you should be looking at webinars like this so that you get an idea of how can you structure your journey to make that change. And obviously, as I said, it is for everybody almost within finance because uh, this is much more on finance analytics and things like that. What will we be covering today? Today's session, we will be covering basically planning the journey, implementing the change, and a case study. Though I have put the case study as the last item, the reality is I don't have a slide on that. What I will be doing is, as I'm talking through the planning of journey and implementation, we will talk about case study example through which we will then understand the concept of the frameworks that we will be talking about. Most of you have come through basically my LinkedIn network, so I think a lot of you do know me. But still, very quickly, I am basically Tejas Parekh. I have an MBA from University of Oxfordshire. I'm a CIMA qualified. I'm a professional consultant. I'm an Anaplan modeler. I'm a Power BI expert as well as I'm a GCologist, and I will be coming on to GCology today as well as a part of this presentation. And I think it is a very critical part of any change journey or any change culture that you're looking to implement. Past clients, even Akshar Business Consulting as a business has existed from 2018 onwards. These are some of the names that we have worked with over last basically 5+ years. Done Anaplan implementations, Power BI implementations, driver-based budgeting, even Excel modeling and stuff like that. So we have serviced these clients in the past and obviously looking to do more value add for our customers. This kind of gives us the authority to actually even, because when I reflect back and think about what gives me the authority to even host this webinar or have this conversation, then this is the thought process behind it. That what I think, apart from working 5 years with this business, I have obviously done 15 years before that in industry. And therefore, we bring a lot of knowledge and experience between us as a team to add value to our customers. Sorry, before I move ahead, by the way, basically, everybody can unmute themselves and frankly ask questions, comments, discussions. If you're curious about something I say or I show and you want to ask me more stuff, please do. This is not a one-sided communication. I really appreciate when people get engaged. So if you want to ask questions and stuff, please unmute yourself and go right ahead. I would really encourage people to ask and have a conversation. Because the more we have a conversation, actually, the more I will be able to better get ideas out there. And obviously, more you will also get what I'm trying to get at. So this is just one slide, quick revision of what we covered in part one. We put together basically a journey of where finance functions or where your businesses are, whether you are basically as a finance function just focusing on bean counter, statutory reporting and stuff like that, or are you looking at basically a little bit more of business reporting, but it's still much more finance focused, to actually becoming an analyst to becoming a strategic partner. And that is kind of your journey towards a data-driven decision-making culture. where does your organization sit? Okay, the framework we used is people, process, and technology, which we went through last time, because these are three key components. Yes, I know there are frameworks out there which talk about mindset separately, or data separately. But again, I feel that mindset is a part of the people leg itself. We spoke of basically what do people do. So are they focused on accurate historic reporting? Are they reporting with some KPIs, but not really, much more finance focused KPIs, to actually driving behavior and decision making in the business, to now actually telling the business what it should do to make an impact in the market. So there is a difference here is still basically much more around connected and planning and connected reporting and stuff like that. Whereas this is actually modeling what the future looks like. If should we do this or should we do that? So there is a subtle change between these two as well. And what we really find is a lot of our clients are still struggling between this two as a journey. And therefore, taking them along this journey is quite important. Process is about basically data governance, and decision governance is what we spoke about. Are decisions taken basically on an ad hoc basis by individuals, or are they actually done in a structured manner? We also spoke about basically data governance in terms of how are we managing data? Is data coming from systems, or are they coming from Excel books? Are those Excel books on people's C drive versus they are on SharePoint? And all those kind of things. You know, it's an important leg of basically that journey, because otherwise you have few people who are there, but the department is still not there. So it is individuals versus department. So that is why data process of data governance and decision governance is quite critical. And then we also talked about basically what technology should we be looking at to for that journey, right from Excel to basically combining internal and external sources, and actually bringing in the bigger internal as well as external environment into the decision making process. So this is what we covered last time. For anybody who had missed, it's just a very quick one. So planning the journey. So today what we are going to talk about is how do you plan for basically implementing data-driven decision making in a business. Okay. One of the key parts is setting a goal for the business of why are you looking to do this? What are you looking to achieve? What does good look like? Okay, define what does good look like. A lot of projects and a lot of technologies are implemented by businesses, and almost 60 to 80% of technology or finance transformations or implementations fail. They fail because they don't know why they're doing it. So whatever journey they have made, they don't know whether that journey is where they wanted to be, or have they just landed somewhere, right? So it is very important to start with the why. Okay, it is. I know I'm also listening to Simon Sinek's book at the minute, so that also is a part why I put that actually first. It is very important to understand the why, or why do you want to implement your data-driven decision making? What are you trying to change operational behavior? Are you trying to change culture? Are you trying to change psychology? What are you trying to do? Okay, and that should be then classified into midterm and long-term goals. Because there are things that you can do like within next 6 months or next 3 months, and versus what you can do in next 2 years. So you need to know what you are trying to do and why. Why are you trying to do things, and when can you do them? Okay. Then based on those two, then you need to break that vision down into objectives of, okay, if I need to achieve this in next 3 6 months, what am I going to achieve? Okay, what are my objectives for now? And they, again, the SMART framework, I don't think I'm the first guy to talk about it. It's a very commonly heard of framework. Then it needs to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Again, why is this important? This is important because a lot of the projects that we do land up working with, basically the expectation is not realistic. Either the time, the data available, and the resources available, right? They three have to work together for you to have a realistic chance of implementing any such data-driven decision-making behavior. It will not happen overnight. It does not just change overnight. So you need to have very realistic expectations around it. Achieve what is achievable, right? What can you influence, what you cannot influence, where is your circle of influence stopping, and where do you need help? You need to be very clear about it, and then be able to measure your success. of, okay, I wanted to achieve this. How far have we got along that journey? What basically data have I made more publicly democratized? What data for people to be able to take those decisions? Which specific decisions did we influence over last 3 months where we wouldn't have been able to influence those before? Again, and how long that transformation took. Too long is not sensible as well. But then again, expecting that, like we've had cases where we've had to go in and rescue and plan projects because within 3 months they are like, okay, we're going to do long range plan, short range plan, financial planning, connected planning, three statement modeling. All of that is going to happen in 3 months, and in 3 months, everybody in the business is going to start doing all of this together. It's not going to happen. It is impossible. Okay, even if a modeler is able to model all of this out correctly in 3 months, the business culture is not going to change. So expecting all of that to happen within 3 months is not good. Having a timely thought process around how you can manage that time and that transformation in a realistic manner, in a timely manner, is very, very actually important. And then, do you have the buy-in, right? Why is the buy-in important? Because when people buy into the ideas of what you are trying to implement, then you get promoters. Okay, then you are not the only one fighting this battle by yourself. And therefore, first, within finance function, all levels of the finance function need to be motivated for that change. They every Rather than looking at protecting their jobs or protecting basically, what I do it this way or it has always been done that way. Instead of all those arguments, they actually buy into the bigger picture of the vision of the why that you're trying to sell them. Okay. And that is very important because otherwise one person cannot just carry the flag. Okay. And we have a model at the latest in the latest slide, which we will be talking about, of how do you segregate your stakeholders, how do you segregate that buy-in, which kind of stakeholders, how do you deal with them separate differently and things like that. But it is important to have a plan to ensure that you at least get a majority people to buy into your idea of this data transformation journey. Otherwise, it becomes very, very difficult to sell. Okay, man or woman cannot basically, one person cannot carry this entire journey in any business, even if you are just 100 people business or 80 people business. The reality is that you need buy-in from all levels for really that culture to change and that behavior to change. Otherwise, very often you will see that as much of technology is implemented, people fall back into old habits just because they are comfortable with it. So change is difficult, and therefore it is important to have that buy-in from people. Does that kind of make sense? Does that resonate? I mean, have people seen stuff like this around? Does this, I mean, at least speak to some of the pain points that you have experienced before at all? Go on, we can talk from a plan perspective. Now, how do you plan this journey? You start with a baseline, understanding where your finance function is today. That is the reason why we did part one separately, because that is where you need to really understand where your finance function is, how much of Excel is there, how much of manual work is there, or where is finance function spending, its time. The baseline can be established using basically questionnaires, interviews, shadowing. I personally really, really love when I can document a process as is process. So, recently we did a client, their board pack was taking them 10 days. So, okay, I said, fine. What is taking you 10 days? What are your data sources? Where are your KPIs coming from? Okay, where is your headcount data coming from? Where is your project data coming from? Where is your financial data coming from? All that kind of stuff. You have to understand that baseline for you to then take that journey along and make that improvement. Remember, Rome was not built in a day. It's a phrase I'm sure you've heard of before. So instead of trying to fix when you are hearing this information, you have to be independent at that point in time and say, no, I'm not going to fix this. I'm just going to listen. So when we were doing this project for basically a Power BI implementation for the client, we sat down, we spent like almost 6 hours speaking to the people who were basically putting the board deck together over 2 weeks, like 10 working days, and understood what was taking them 10 working days, what were delays, where were bottlenecks, you know, manual, what was being done manually, all those kind of things. All those things, all those stuff was then documented correctly for us to be making for us to make sure that, you know what, it's a very important document. It's like more than 120 million business. So for the board, it is very important to get this correct. But let's just make sure we document this correctly first. Of what are they doing as this situation? Okay. Then we did basically gap analysis. Okay, of what is the where do you want to be? Okay, what is the internal benchmark that you want to achieve? What do you internally want to achieve? Okay, and then what does external benchmarking look like? So internal benchmarking generally refers to, if you are a big organization, you look at within that organization what is the best in class finance function and try to reach that as a benchmark. And then external benchmark is looking outside to your peer groups. You know, there are lots of groups on FP on basically LinkedIn, FP&A trends being one. You know, so you look at what your peer groups are doing and how are they doing it. How can that help you benchmark yourself against what your finance function is doing versus what others are doing? So that benchmarking, like for example, you know, finance cost is 1.5% of revenue versus finance cost is 3% of revenue. Like Xerox, we are working with Xerox on Anaplan and Power BI both, and they are basically working on an external benchmark of, they think they have far too many finance people doing forecasting and planning and stuff like that. So they need to reduce that headcount. That's the external benchmark. And we using Anaplan and Power BI are working with them to help them reduce that headcount, because otherwise all the, and for that all the manual labor work needs to come out. So that's the example of external benchmarking. And basically the Power BI implementation basically at one of other clients is much more of internal focus. They don't want to spend 10 days on board pack. They want to do something more useful with their time, which I think they should anyway. And then planning the journey, and this is again very important, of look at the key pain points. What will get heard the most? Okay, and what will add value the most? What are your low hanging fruit? So like this board pack piece was actually an absolute straightforward low hanging fruit for them. Of if you get this, then the board hears you that, oh wow, the pack looks much more smart. The CEO, the C-suite hears you because, okay, now you are able to do much better analytics, and you get buy-in across the business. And literally, that is exactly what happened. We took that pain point, we solved that, and immediately, as a response to that, we started getting basically questions from across the business. Oh, can we do MD packs? Can we do country profitability packs? Can we do channel profitability packs? Things like that. Suddenly we get a lot more engagement because we've taken the low-hanging fruit, which impacts the most amount of people, and we simplified that. So that is the way to really think about it, and that's the way to actually make sure that you plan your journey one step at a time. And again, we didn't try to transform the whole business overnight. This is all we did. We started only with the board report. And then, yes, then we did the sales deck, then we did the regional decks, then we did basically, client profitability decks. So we did all of that one by one. But you start in one place which has basically a good journey, and then let your stakeholder take you along that journey. Because that way we got engagement much more easily from everybody. Because they could see what value it adds to their day-to-day life. And they were not insecure that, oh, this will cost me my job, means they're going to fire all of us. That was not the purpose. It was just the purpose of utilizing people better, of making sure that people actually better spend their time. Because, a FP&A trend survey even recently showed that even now more than 60% time is basically spent by finance people in data gathering, data interrogation, and basically visual creation. 60% of the time, pretty much you could double the productivity of your entire workforce if you did that correctly. Imagine that you are twice the size of a finance team. That's the reality of life. So that's the way to think about it. So planning that journey, start small, start where you can make the impact, and then go along as you make progress and as you hit success. Because again, nothing attracts success more than success itself. So when you have small successes, then you get much larger successes along the way. Okay, strategize top down. So when we did this, we made sure we understood what the CFO and the finance FP and the director wanted, what the board expectations were. What they wanted, a new board pack, they wanted better KPI, they wanted not just finance but non-financial metrics in there and all of that good stuff. So yes, we understood the top-down requirements for sure. But then, as I said previously as well, we spent actually good 6 hours with people who are putting the board deck together and understanding what are their pain points. Okay, how can we make sure that we don't miss the lessons they have learned already doing this job for last 1 or 2 years. And therefore, we delivered it. What I always say, we deliver success bottom up. You cannot deliver top down because very respectfully, but the CFO or the CEO is not the one designing the board deck. Okay, they are not the one who knows where the bottlenecks are. They know what they want, and therefore that's what they will tell you top down. This is what I want. But the bottom of people tell you exactly where the challenges lie. So you always, basically, any transformation you think about, any change driver, you always think about strategizing top down, but then delivering bottom up. Okay, that is the way we went about it, and clearly we hit success, right? Because we then got like 5 other pieces of work out of it. So definitely that did go down pretty well. Uh, Again, planning a journey from, again, going back to this model you will see again and again in a lot of the slides, because this is the model which we use with our clients as a business. We are trying to move them from scorekeeper to strategist. So how do you do that? Are you behaving as a support function or a contributory role or an influencing role, or you have an impact onto the business, right? That is the journey you need to look at. And what is the mindset that the people have? Okay. You want to move them from a descriptive analytical analysis to diagnostic of, what has happened to why has it happened, you know, how do you connect the dots, and then what will happen if we should behave in a particular manner. It's a mindset journey which you need to take your client on. So, for example, the client that we were working with, they were struggling to with this. Literally, the board deck, the commentary was revenue is 2% up and 2% up, say, for example, and 5 million up and stuff like that. Which is like, seriously, I can read the numbers, I can see the table next to it. What is what is that telling me? That's not telling me anything. That's completely nonsense. So from there, I can't expect him to start doing this. So there, the conversation was, let's recognize this is where we are and let's plan to get there. Okay? Let's plan to get there. Let's just make sure that we are able to do diagnosis. We are able to explain what the numbers are, why have they happened, give better insights than just read what the table is next to you. And the client recognized that as well. Then again, no, you are right. We need to just move that first before we go further onto that journey. It takes time. It takes effort. Right? Then based on that, basically it's about what the information needs to be accurate. Because again, we will again talk about it as we go along. If you're a lot more Excel focused processes means, frankly, accuracy, I think personally, is highly questionable. Okay, because what if somebody mistyped the number in Excel? I just don't trust it. So where is your accuracy of information? Then is your information insightful? Are you just giving me the number of revenue is 2% up, or are you telling me why is it 2% up? Am I expecting it to come down next quarter? What is going to happen? Is there insightful information? Then complete or connected information in terms of how does this mean? Are we able to deliver this? Do we have the resources? Is my supply chain, is my manufacturing, or if you're a business services business, then are my people going to be able to service this revenue? Okay, all that kind of stuff. So then completion in terms of not just financial or revenue focus, then how does that impact with other departments in the business? And then what should we do to make sure that the future is more secure? Okay, how do you influence the market? What do you do in the market so that you can actually start influencing the market? Okay, so that is what you need to plan, that journey of how you get from there to there. The tool set or the technology set, obviously, everybody, it is very, very critical. I am very critical of Excel anymore. Excel you being used for anything more than ad hoc analysis is, we in any business, we challenge you. We say, why? Okay. Excel, any process is run on the basis of Excel, or Excel being at the heart of any process. Like I've worked with, like, businesses where investment appraisal of millions of pounds is basically done on an Excel template which is 4 years old. Nobody's updated that for the last 4 years. That to me is a red herring, like that just shouts risk in simple words. So that is, quite challenging. Where, how can we move further? It doesn't need to be, oh, I will get the fanciest tool in the market tomorrow morning. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be shiny new toy. What's my next step? Okay. What is the first next thing that we will learn out of that? Right? Because otherwise, what happens is businesses try to directly get something like that, and the reality is people can't use it. Your processes are not up for it. So first, your people are not mature enough for it. Processes are not matured enough for it. Your business is not ready for it. Okay, and from here, basically, we also talk about basically a lot of people focused activity, because even this week, I don't know if any of you have followed me on LinkedIn, but on LinkedIn, we did a survey, and as of this morning, basically 44 people have responded. And basically, you find that 66% people say people is a challenge when they are doing data transformation. So making sure that you take that journey in a step-by-step manner so that those people actually work with you rather than work against you. Okay, that is very, very important. Another statistic to throw out at this conversation is like FP&A Trends recently published a 2023 basically analysis, and they also again talk about that 15% or something around that is only time is spent on data, on driving action. Okay, whereas 85% is spent on other activity, 45% is data collection, 22% is basically information generation. Oh my, that is like 67% basically spent on just data. You could automate all of that. You could genuinely automate it. And that, is what this journey is about. Okay. How do you again go about doing this? If you are in the position your business is behaving like a support function, then look at all the reports that are being generated. Okay, limit what large Excel books, those multi-megabyte monsters that exist, which crash on you all the time. Limit that. How am I, if I don't use Excel for this anymore, what am I going to use? What can support this process going forward? So that is the way to think about it, of basically limit the use of Excel, actually vocally turn around, even though you are in finance, turn around and say, no, if we don't use Excel, what can we do, right? Use some visualization tools, very simple ones. I mean, like, for example, we promote Power BI. We like Power BI a lot. Power BI is like, what, £7.50 a month for a pro license. Frankly, I have spoken to people, businesses recognize they spend more on coffee per person in the office than £750. £7 50 penny for one Power BI license for 1 month is as good as free. Okay. So there is hardly any cost. At least start playing with it, start exploring, right? If you need help, there is a lot of help around. There's a lot of help you can get out of it. So that is, at least move away from large Excel data files into at least some sort of visualization, parallel runs, see how that can help. Okay. And more time should be spent on data analysis as opposed to basically gathering data and manipulating data. If you think that you as a finance function are already on a contributing factor where you can actually provide more insightful commentary, then what else can you do, Tejas? You can start looking forward, forward looking analysis. Don't just, okay, my revenue is up because we sold more to this client, or this order came in earlier, or this country over delivered, or this salesperson over delivered. That is still backward looking. So yes, you're contributing, but you're still backward looking. How about then be trying to become forward looking? Look into your CRM. What does that mean? Are we going to be able to keep up this run rate? Does the CRM pipeline look too strong enough? Does my long-term contracts look strong enough? Okay, do we have basically sophisticated analysis, basically which have got enough data sets, CRM data, headcount data, recruitment plan data, or manufacturing data in terms of what is in the stock, what's in the supply chain, things like that. Can I tell something about the future? as opposed to talking about backward. Do some correlation analysis of, okay, we've been able to consistently sell better in this market segment or in this channel, or these products in this market segment in this time of the year does start to do much better, right? Like we've worked in retail environment with basically you, sushi and snowfox and stuff like that. And you start looking at, okay, there is seasonality around basically your sales, or when they open a new store, they have a big jump for 4 weeks and then it starts falling off. So do that correlation sensitivity analysis so that you start understanding the behavior pattern, and you can actually start providing insightful information which business already doesn't have. That's what makes the difference, right? Joining basically the dots between operations and finance. Right. I mean, this is an example which I always give. I have given this before on LinkedIn as well. I wrote a post some time back where we were working with a client, and the R&D department was struggling with their budget. They're like, we need more money, we need more R&D, blah blah. And when we started looking at it, they are working on like 8 major projects. First of all, 40% of the cost they're booking as R&D is actually not R&D. It's much more of support services to existing clients. So it's much more of support services. Almost want, as an accountant, want to put it in cost of sales rather than R&D. So that was 40% of the cost, and even the 60% that they were spending on around 8 projects. I'm like, okay, are these 8 projects? Has marketing signed it off? Has sales signed this off? So even if you create all these wonderful projects tomorrow, can you actually sell it, right? So this is where then we became basically influencers, and we said, okay, let's bring sales and marketing into this meeting. We had another meeting. We sat down with the sales director, marketing director, and the R&D director. Said, okay, these are the projects. This is the R&D stuff. If they deliver all of this in the next 6 months, can you actually sell this? Okay, join those dots together. For that, we needed the data set of the cost. We needed the data set of what are the projects running around it. We needed the data sets of what the customer requirements that marketing and sales have, put together for last 1 year. Brought it all together. This tells me out of the 6 to 8 projects that you are running, only 2 or 3 is what the customer is asking for. Why are we funding all these other projects? Is there something which you want to do in the medium to long term? Yes, but then we can shift some resources around it, reprioritize. And that way we deliver the higher revenue in next 6 to 12 to 18 months, which will indirectly then help us fund the other long-term projects as well. So it's just about thinking outside the box. And we sat down in the room with sales, marketing, and R&D, and suddenly we found extra money. It's not like as finance we gave them extra money. We didn't have the funding. We basically just helped them understand their own P&L and reprioritize their work. But for that, you have to be able to have that data set and connect their dots. Right. So that was then moving us from just contributory to influencing kind of behavior pattern, and then develop basically analytical skills of what might happen if we drop price. Demand should go up. Like this is a very famous case. We had this argument at GE Healthcare all the time in the pharmaceutical division. They kept talking about if you drop price, you can get more volume. Okay, then we went in. I showed them mathematically that given the market size today in volume, and given the market size that you are forecasting, the price drop, how much of volume, basically increased volume, is because of price drop, and how much of increased volume is just because the market size has grown. There are 2 elements of volume growth. There is basically price drop growth. You're trying to capture market share, and then basically just because the market has grown, you've got more volume. And that then suddenly changed the way the business was looking at it, because then the business was like, so then if I'm dropping price and I'm only gaining like equivalent volume, then there's no point. So if my price drop is worth 2 million and my increased volume is worth 2 million, I have another 1 million volume growth because of basically market size growth. But that's market size growth. I don't need to drop price for that. That will happen automatically, generically, as a part of the growth process. So that 1 million I can't count. And suddenly we had very different pricing conversations. So as data, as basically analytical people, we need to then start happening what might happen. Okay, what is the competition doing? What is geographically, if it is important from a retail sector perspective, how is the geographical location of your shops or your outlets? How is has a competitor opened in your local area? All those kind of big data analytics. Bring in your external data, because in this step we have now mastered internal data, and therefore now start bringing external data, start modeling the future to see what might happen if should we do this. That is your ideal scenario, which then starts taking you to a basically strategic partner position where you can actually go into a board meeting or a senior director meeting or senior management meeting and actually add value in terms of if we do this, statistics say or your correlation regression analytics say that you will get that output. This is the backup behind it. We can try it on a small, again, you try it on a small sample, see what happens, and based on that, you can actually start becoming a strategic partner, and people start taking you a lot more seriously. I mean, with me, I remember doing this at GE Healthcare, and I know I landed up in meetings and chairs which I wouldn't have been otherwise. Just because people were like, you know what, this guy talks sense. Because you're adding that value. That is the way to think about your data analytics and implementing that change culture as you go along. Okay, this next three slides are basically focused on a lot more people element of it, because as I said previously, on Monday we did a poll where still people are saying that 70% almost votes were that it actually in this change journey, people are the biggest challenge. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how do you help take people along that journey, right? To take the If you feel that your people are just behaving as a being countered, then you need to talk about mentoring them, on the job training, maybe some finance CPE courses. There are loads of courses which ACA, CMA, ACA organizations, all these institutes give you data analytics courses now. Yeah. Apart that, there are privately run courses. I mean, we do some as well. So there are businesses which do provide you courses as well. So, maybe help people see beyond what they're doing on a day-to-day activity. It starts, again, encourage them to attend webinars like this. So they start looking beyond. We are going to do a webinar series in September for Power BI. So maybe, attend those so that it kind of thinks, okay, I can do this in Excel, but actually I can do this better automated in Power BI. And it is not that difficult. It doesn't look that difficult. It's just about exploring that unknown, right? Uh, Again, FP&A conferences, FP&A Trends is one of my favorite groups on LinkedIn. I am always following all their content. Encouraging people to actually participate in these kind of conferences is important for them to learn what is going on in other businesses. Remember, we spoke about external benchmarking earlier. If you want that to happen at an individual level, they need to understand what is in it for them. They need to, if you encourage them, they're okay, you know what, go out, look at these things, learn these new skills. It just doesn't help your business, it helps everybody, right? And helps them expand their career prospects, which is what again they are interested in. Okay. Follow thought leaders. I mean, there are lots of leadership groups on LinkedIn, which I'm sure most of you know of. So that's to think about, right? Encourage the teams to do that, because that's what then makes a difference in their lives. That makes them basically better people. And yes, this is hard work. People don't change overnight. It's not easy. And therefore, it takes time. One of the key reasons why I always say that finance transformation is an evolution rather than transformation is because the people element of it. You can't change people overnight. I can come in and change technology overnight, but not people. And therefore, encouraging people on this journey is actually very, very important for us as finance leaders, right? But then again, as finance people, there are finance skeptics as well who will turn around and say, Tejas, but if I do all of this and those people become really smart in tech and all of that and they decide to leave. Yes, they do, right? This is a very famous quote. CFO asks CEO, what happens if we develop these people and they leave? Yeah, but what happens if they don't leave? They will keep doing the same Excel chunky, churning and the same manual labor over and over again. They're not going to be value added to the business anyways. So would you rather have people who stay in the business but don't add value, or would you rather have people who actually learn new things? They're a bit more excited. They want to do new things and actually add value, in the value chain. That's so, yeah, it is a bit of a catch, but it is always worth making that investment in the people, because again, I was always lucky. I've had people, managers and leaders who believed in me. And then even today, I respect them. Even today, we talk, we keep in touch. If they need help, we talk. It's stuff like that. You keep, you develop good people, good businesses happen on their own. This is the this is another piece which we always use when we are working with a client. We have to remember that people, not everybody is open to change. Okay. There is Rogers bell curve, which talks about 2.5% people are innovators. Now, can you imagine that just 2.5% people in a business would be really innovative, really out there, really looking to do new things? Okay. 13.5% people are actually early adopters. So if you combine those two together, you have got basically around 16%, only 16% people are actually open to change. But if we, as basically change leaders, work with those people correctly, you can very quickly start capturing this early majority and the late majority. Okay, let them do that hard work for you. So, like one of the change management programs which you did at basically Cine Media, where you were working with for implementing Anaplan and again Power BI, we spoke. Leadership was talking about top down, and this is what we want. We want planning to be automated. We have got contracts, blah blah blah. Fine. I went the other way around. I started talking to basically the people who were doing the work on the ground level. There was this person who was there for 20 years. She had very good influence around, and she was very well reputed and very, very open, very, very early adopter behavior pattern to new technology. Just wanted to be heard. She was not very senior in the management, but I sat down with her. I said, you know what? Look, let me show you what we are doing with her. Let me show you how we are doing. Okay. What did that help? I got very brilliant insights from her because she's been around in the business for 20 years. So obviously she knows a lot more about the business than most of the people. So very good insight. And then she became my influencer, okay, which helped me get other people on board. Where people are much more open to UAT testing, much more honest on giving feedback, much more, open to communication, much more open to being listening to it. Because she was carrying that, the torch or the flag for us, so to speak. Okay, so every business has got two, or every business, every department, every function will have 2, 3 people like that, right? You find those right people, and they don't need to have management titles. Trust me, they never do. In my experience, they never do. In fact, people who have got management titles generally, middle to lower managers don't, lower basically hierarchy don't want to listen to them because they're like, yeah, you are doing this only because you are a manager. Whereas you work with the people who are, uh, in the grunt of work and get the influences out of them, what you get then is actually much larger volume of acceptance and audience which works with you. All right. So this is something to really, really bear in mind when you're managing that change from basically a bean counter to a reporter to an influencer, to make sure that you are picking the right people to help you take the message out there. Okay. And I spoke about GC index extensively in the last webinar as well. We got a lot of questions as well. And this is again, and it's very similar, to be honest, because they talk about innovators, they talk about game changers, they talk about early adopters, they talk about strategists, So there is a lot of basically overlap around it. This is basically talking much more around, there are people who are action focused versus people who are imagination focused. There are people who are very, very pragmatic and realistic, whereas there are people who are very obsessive. Okay. And again, just to be very crystal clear, like I am supposed to be a 9 game changer because I'm very, very obsessive and very, very imagination. So for me, it's like, this is the art of the possible. Why are we just not going there? Right. So, and again, people like that are very good for your early brainstorming sessions and, for ideation, for idea formation, vision development. Okay. But then your goal formation is much more better with strategists, people who are strategists. And I have consistently always worked with clients who I always said, your implementers, polishers are your best UAT testers because they live in that focus on action, focus on basically detail. Because I live here, I struggle sometimes to look at, every line item level details. Whereas I know people who will tell me, Tejas, this is not 0.6 width, but this is 0.45 width, and I don't like it. I need this to be 0.6 width. And you're like, seriously, how does it matter? It's like, but they apparently see and they apparently get it. And I respect that for them for that. So it is about making sure that you build a team around you, which everybody has a role. Okay, it's not like, oh, okay, if people are very detail oriented or very much, realistic and can't imagine stuff, there is no use for them. There is always use. There are you want imaginative people to be a part of your project planning stage, but then you want UAT testers and implementers at the later stage in life in your implementation change. So it all, and again, playmakers are much more your influencing people who help you influence other people in the organization. So just another framework to look at when you are managing that change towards data-driven decision making. From a process documentation, I'm just going to show you this is something which we are actually, which we use for our clients. When we are working with them, especially for a Power BI implementation, we work with them on something like this of what are the key processes that you want to basically make or automate, digitalize, make it smarter. What is the frequency? Who has the ownership? Who has the inputs? What systems? Where does it come from? Who are the users who are using this? Again, I've not gone into detail here, but like board pack will have multiple levels of KPIs. So all the KPIs are then listed out. How do I calculate each one? Because you will be surprised, like the client that I was talking about where we implemented Power BI recently, and they had a different definition for the same KPI in the UK versus Australia. So when we started doing this, they then realized that the same KPI is being calculated differently in UK, in Australia, and in UAE. And I'm like, okay, which one is this? And then we sat down, we had a conversation, we document, okay, this is now the corporate line. Everybody calculates it like this. This is what it is. You'll be surprised. People don't even know what is the definition. How is the calculation formula of the formula derived? What formula should they be using? Everybody then makes it up because they don't want to look stupid, so they don't want to ask, and therefore they just make it up. Whereas, putting something like this together just helps, makes it very, very clear. It's not ambiguous. It is not your opinion versus my opinion. This is the formula. And if you want to change it for the whole business. At least it is consistent data. So this is the process documentation we kind of use to document all the processes that we are going to impact as we go along, and then make sure that, okay, have we, covered everything as we go along. Technology selection process, okay. You need to have an internal checklist, first of all, before you go outside and look at technology for data visualization or for basically planning or for any data storage or any data analytics. Why are you going to do that? What are my existing processes? So again, why we covered in the vision statement, we covered existing processes, the performer document, which we just looked at. Where is my data? We spoke about data governance and data basically decision governance. Know the team skill set. So we spent quite a bit of time today and in my last webinar talking about people and team. Okay, because that to me even today is the heart of this whole process. Okay, how is the decision of the new technology going to be made? Who are the final decision makers? Do I need to put a business case study together? Things like that. Beyond implementation, what does after implementation successfully, what does the new world look like for my business? Right? That is critical. Okay. What technology stack are you on? Are you on Microsoft or are you on basically Google? Okay, that is again another big one. Just like your personal phones. Are you on Apple or are you Android? Same way, business ecosystem. Are you basically Google? Are you Microsoft? So know that technology environment so that you can then make better choices and decisions. And then know your limitations. Like, for example, we can certainly again get this. Because we don't have data. We don't have reliable data. Our data is not good quality. Okay, fine. We hear you. But how are you going to fix that? Okay. And that is again where again, personal recommendation is use technology to fix your data problem in terms of you will not have good data till you have technology to store the data in. And I don't want to spend on storage of data if my data quality is not good. Not good to work. It's a chicken and egg. Okay. So start with technology and then get people to make sure that people put in the right quality of data in there. Okay. Then look at external checks. What are the external checks you need to look at? Look at different software vendors. And another one, this one is very, very interesting because we are basically almost technology agnostic. But we consistently find that when we talk to customers, people are like, oh, but I have used, I don't know, Anaplan in my last job, so I want Anaplan. Or I have used basically Vena in my last job, so I want Vena. Or I've used, don't know, like Planful in my last job, so I want Planful. Or I don't want Planful. Okay. Or I don't want what I had in the last job because I don't think it worked. That's not how this works. Your new environment is different. If a technology did not work in your last environment, doesn't mean it will not work or work in your new environment. Okay. Look at implementation partner ecosystem. How many partners do they have? What is the support the partners have? What is the network of the partners? What is the value that those guys can bring? Again, I always personally, again, I'm going to be biased here, but I always say, are they finance implementers or are they basically technology implementers? And it is different. It is day and night different. The language is different. Okay, I have had to sit with basically some modelers and explain to them what depreciation is. It's a non-cash expenditure. It doesn't have cash flow impact. People just don't get it. So make sure that the implementation, the partners who are working with are they going to be able to understand the language that you speak? Okay, what is the support and admin on an ongoing basis you would need in that technology implementation? Okay, most businesses, most technology providers will do a POC for you if they think you are being serious. So maybe do a POC. Some of them charge you for it, but even again, spending the 2 grand or 3 grand or 5 grand on a POC cost is much better than spending basically a few thousands on a technology implementation and then finding out that this technology doesn't work for you. Okay, so it is better to risk just 2 or 5 grand than to risk a few thousand. So always do a POC, I always say. And then again, involve end users. I put that in red on purpose because what is more commonly forgotten is in the previous slide we talked about, strategize top down, implement bottom up. The bottom up people, the end users are the ones who are going to be using that technology. So might as well start including them early into the selection process so that they can point out, yeah, you're saying that, but this will not work for us because of XYZ. Again, get some naysayers on that decision making board because it is always helpful. Okay, if you can convince the naysayers, then the naysayers will come along on it. So get that organized as early as possible from a technology selection perspective. Okay. So this for me is almost brings to an end, gives you some framework, some thought processes, some ideas of how the data-driven transformation can happen in a business, and what you should be looking for, what are the tests you can do, or the models and frameworks you can use, etc. I'm really hoping you've at least found it a little bit useful. Can I hear some voice from somebody? Anybody? Paul, David, Nikolai, Sheriff, anybody? No? Okay. Uh, Very quickly, what we do for us as a business, we work with basically corporate planning, Vena and Anaplan and Profix, basically as CPM tools. We work with Power BI as a digital data visualization tool. I know there are loads out there, but I like again Power BI because of this section. They have a very good roadmap of the project of the product. They have constant innovation in the product pipeline. So I think it just makes helps us deliver better value to the customer essentially. We also do financial consolidation, so solutioning, reporting solutioning using Power BI. For for planning and CPM, we do two separate things. We do basically financial budgeting as well as connected planning, but we do financial budgeting first. So again, as I said, right, you go and do your financial basically automation first. Then connect your CRM to it, your headcount to it, your project plans if you have got project plans or manufacturing plans to it, to your overall planning to create a connected planning environment. Depends on the maturity of the organization. Again, a lot of businesses start to directly try to achieve this. It doesn't work. We have gone in and rescued actually 3 different projects because they tried to do this and it didn't work. Get this right first. This working for 2 or 3 quarters, then let's come back and have that conversation. I love connected planning or XFP&A or extended planning or extended whatever people choose to use different terms. But what I don't believe in is that can happen overnight. it doesn't work like that. It has to go through stages. And that's what we have discussed today, essentially. So any of this you want to discuss with us, please reach out. No obligation. We can book demos for you. We can have basically conversations for you. Again, POCs if you want. So POCs with you. Calendar link is right there. There are basically customer testimonials on basically on the website as well as on my LinkedIn profile. You can go and check them out because this is essentially what we believe, because we are finance focused transformation partners. So we start with you in mind, and we deliver stuff which helps make sure that you are successful in your transformation journey. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for making the time on a Friday evening. I really appreciate it. I know it's difficult, so thank you so much, man. And if you have any questions, please do reach out on my LinkedIn and on my basically or on Calendly and stuff, and we should talk. Yes,
very,
Paul.
very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you now. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.